conference with a whole bunch of bases from people from bases all over Europe. It was awesome. We were in this huge tent on the beach. Yeah, honestly, like it was a huge circus tent, and somehow it fit 700 people in this tent. It was stupid, but no, it was awesome. We got to hear from YWAMers all over Europe, like what other bases are doing in their ministries, and yeah, just kind of learning about that and getting inspired to do missions. At the end of it, we got to take down that 700-person tent, and the thing about it is we couldn't let it touch the sand. There's a lot of sand, but we learned a lot of teamwork in that. The next stop was Vinica, Ukraine, where we did a lot of orphanage ministries. Yeah, the YWAM base there in Vinica works closely with a lot of the orphanages all around the city, and there's a lot of them. It's actually a crisis in Ukraine, yet the government's still trying to shut down the orphanages. So it was really powerful going in there and seeing the state of these places. You know, it's run down because they're underfunded, but it's not like you see it in the movies, like really mean headmistresses and you know everything's falling apart. But the people in these places actually really care about the kids, and yeah, it was amazing to see the bond that the YWAM base had built up with the orphanages, and just how the kids recognized them and recognized us after a few times. Yeah, it was a cool thing to do, and yeah, I think just taught us all about just more about what was going on in Ukraine. This is in the western part of Ukraine. The war is going on in the east, and it was crazy hearing people's stories about the war that was going on in the east. Yeah, I think it was halfway through our second week of 3 weeks we were there, our host told us that none of our health insurance actually worked because we were in a war-torn country, which is kind of mind-blowing. Like, it didn't seem like anything was going wrong, but yeah, there was a lot of crazy tension in the country, especially in the east. Yeah, we also made a pit stop in the middle of nowhere in Ukraine, but almost in Moldova. We just, our hosts had us come for a little retreat in this really like abandoned, falling apart cabin in the middle of nowhere. There's a lot of cool snails. We saw a 1,000-year-old monastery while we were there, which was very creepy but pretty cool. Next up was Warsaw, Poland, where we volunteered at 2 different conferences doing childcare. I work at camp, so like you might not know that I actually really don't like little kids. Like little ones, not my jam. Little kids that don't speak English, whole other pile of trouble. Yeah, it was challenging, but yeah, it was good. We worked at a Heidi Baker conference in Warsaw, which yeah, it was just really inspiring to be able to watch while we weren't doing childcare. In Namysłów, Poland was our most powerful ministry, but we weren't even supposed to go to Poland in the first place. Our original plan was to go to Prague in Czech Republic. So that's what we had decided on beforehand. And then as our team leaders were kind of setting things up, contacting people, doors were just shutting everywhere. And all of a sudden, Stephanie, my one leader, she gets an email from the contact in Namysłów, and it said Namysłów, not Namysław, just by the way. Yeah, so she gets this email. They're looking to host some teams, and so with all the doors closed in Prague, we decided to go here. Yeah, while we were there, we were working with a lot of youth and going into schools around the town, just practicing English with the kids. We weren't even talking about God, which we were confused about at first, but the more we got to know these kids and just speak broken English with them, the more they got to know us. Throughout the 2 weeks we were there, we had an afternoon meetup every afternoon at 4 o'clock. We started out with 2 girls coming, and at the end of it we had about 30 people. And building those relationships, there's a few times some of them would say, hey, like, you guys are different, why? And so that gave us an opportunity to talk about our faith and talk about Jesus and why we love him and why he loves them. Namasuf is very Catholic and very religious, and so a lot of them saw God as kind of this big angry guy with a lot of rules, and then meeting us and learning that they can actually have a relationship with God changed a lot of them. On our very last day in Namasuf, we performed the Everything skit, which is a really powerful skit about this girl. It starts and Jesus breathes life into her, and she's just so in love with Jesus, and then she gets a boyfriend and he pulls her away, pushes Jesus away, and all these different things come in between her and Jesus. The whole time Jesus is standing over here trying to get her back while she's she gets distracted by money and partying and self-image and all these things that so many of us get distracted by, so many of these common idols. And at the end of it, she realizes what's happened, and she runs back to Jesus, and all these things are trying to push her back, and they're beating her on the ground, and Jesus comes in and saves the day pretty much. And it's so powerful. So we perform this in the city square of this town, where everyone goes. Like, it's only 20,000 people, and so everyone's in the same area. And at that point, we had been to all the schools in the town, and so all of the kids would recognize us. And so when they saw us doing this, we attracted a crowd, to say the least. The music was pretty loud, and there's people on the ground like, what the heck? So we performed this, and one of my teammates from Calgary shared his testimony, and it was so powerful. Like, people were crying, and it just opened up so many good conversations about Jesus, and we got to pray for a lot of people, and a lot of people rededicated their lives to Jesus in a whole new way. And man, it was cool, especially just because we weren't even supposed to go to Poland. And I think that showed us a lot how, in ministry you have to be flexible, but sometimes being flexible isn't enough, you have to be fluid. And just really cool seeing how, like, when we trust in God and just trust him and follow him instead of trying to make our own plans, things turn out pretty nicely.